While the 2022-2023 football season officially ends today on Super Bowl Sunday, for many sports betting fans, college hoops in February and March is one of the most exciting times in sports. Whether you love college hoops or just want to pad your bankroll heading into March Madness, we have the perfect special. Starting today, get the rest of February with any WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper for only $149 each. So to finish off February for as little as $9 per day, head over to your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo handicappers page and grab this limited time offer. This offer includes not only college basketball, but also any NBA, NHL, UFC, soccer, golf, and NASCAR that your favorite WagerTalk and or Sports Memo expert handicaps. No coupon is needed. The earlier you sign up, the more days you get.
Welcome, everyone. It's Wednesday, February the 15th, and this is College Basketball Happy Hour Tip-Off Show on WagerTalk TV, part of WagerTalk.com. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for Joe Ranieri. He is recovering from Valentine's Day and recovering from the Super Bowl as we speak, but don't worry, there's still love in the air. We have the original power couple from WagerTalk.com, Adam Trigger and Bryan Power. Joe requires that I mention that, guys. I never would have done it otherwise. And in between the lover's quarrel is Drew Martin as well. So we got three of the best college basketball cappers for what's a very strong Wednesday card in college basketball. And Drew, I'll start with you. Oh, there we go. Robert's the best. Our producer, Robert, just couldn't wait. And, day after Valentine's Day. Obviously, it was a good Valentine's Day because they're on the show together.
I never take good pictures, Steve. It's not possible. You can go look at all my, I've always got a weird face. I'm never looking at the camera. Just not a photogenic guy. That's my best picture I've ever taken, right?
I prefer action couple. Had it not been the day after Valentine's Day, I would have gone with the action couple, the power couple, saving lives as we speak and picking college basketball winners on Wager Talk TV. And that's Adam Trigger, Bryan Power, and Drew Martin. You're here as well. Don't want to forget about you. Drew, what you got going on for a Power Wednesday at WagerTalk.com?
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, me and you like the third and the fourth wheel here on a date. But I do say this, guys, talking about college basketball, that's the show here. I love the games we picked. I don't know who to thank, whether it's Chris Allen or James Bunting, but we're actually getting some SEC action on the first two games up. And it's a conference that I've concentrated a lot on, Steve. So I'm excited to break these games down with you, man. And in terms of Wager Talk, got a 5% play up, max limit up for tonight. My first max limit of the month of February. So I really like this spot. And it's up and available at wagertalk.com.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, last Wednesday was not a strong card because I've been trying to do a college basketball top 25 midweek video on Wednesday, and I thought Wednesday would be the night to do it because that's usually the biggest card other than Saturday. And last week, I didn't do a video because there wasn't a single head-to-head top 25 matchup. But Adam, I've got one up for today because we have three head-to-head matchups and five ranked teams playing tonight in games. And we're going to talk about a couple of them here. What do you have going on for Wednesday, Adam, at wagertalk.com?
Yeah, I have a 5%er up as well. I got there easily last night, Steve, with Drew Martin's Auburn Tigers, who came out, went up about 100-0, and it was never even a game. Just a total blowout winner. My only play last night. So I have a 5%er tonight. And listen, if you're in Northeast Ohio tomorrow, come hang out with me and Bryan. We're hitting another game. I hope you can make it. I will definitely be there at Youngstown State. They're playing Milwaukee. I don't know where these pictures keep coming from. They're great. Keep them coming. That's another awesome game. First place on the line in the Horizon League. I think I have an extra ticket, actually. So if you want to go to the game, let us know. We'll be there at the – Bryan, help me out. What is their building called? Is the Beagley Center? The Beagley Center? I don't know. It looks cool.
Yes, I believe that is the name of it. I've never been there before, unlike the other two places we've been. So
once again, Adam Trigger, I don't know if it's official yet, but of course the meet and greet is going to be August 19th in Vegas. We'll all be out there for that, but it looks like we might have a little bit of a meet and greet on the East Coast in New York, if you want to give a little hint towards that as well.
Oh, Steve, yeah, it's 100% official. Listen, I will be at Turning Stone Resort and Casino with whoever wants to hang out on for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. The only reason I'm not going to be there on Sunday is some of us are going to Albany and going to the games, which is only about 90 minutes away. Basically hanging out morning till night, betting games, watching games. It's going to be a good time. On Saturday, though, I think Saturday is like the official, unofficial, like wager talk day where they'll probably pick up the tab for drinks and stuff like that. So, but really, we're going to be down there pretty much Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like I said, we're heading down to the games in Albany on Sunday. So it's going to be a great time. Turning Stone is in Verona, New York, right outside of Syracuse, 30 minutes east of Syracuse toward Albany. So 90 minutes from Albany, 30 minutes from Syracuse, Central New York. It's going to be fun. Hope everyone can make it because we're going to have a good time. I think a handful of the the Wager Talk. I know a bunch of people have expressed interest. I'm not sure who's coming yet, but I'll be there. CT Betts will be there. Our friend Mark Zeno will be there. A bunch of people are coming. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I think Carmine RSVP today, so we'll have a Canadian
Carmine,
there, at
yep,
least one.
yep.
Not too far from the
Carmine's
Toronto
coming
area, so
down.
maybe the
That's
Prez.
right.
Maybe a Prez sighting if you're lucky or unlucky, depending on how you're looking at it. I guess that's a
Dan
debatable.
Newbie might come. So yeah, hopefully we get a guy. I mean, more the merrier. So hopefully everyone comes down. It's going to be fun.
And that's another reason to follow Wager Talk on Twitter at Wager Talk. It's that simple on Twitter. And Adam's a good follow as well if you want some more photos and also event details. Top Flight SI at Top Flight SI for Adam Trigger on Twitter. And Brian Power, part of that traveling powerhouse for college basketball and perhaps the meet and greet as well. Brian, what do you have going on for Wednesday at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, just a small card today, Steve. One play. It is a 4% play. It is a total. I've released only 2 college totals all year, both in January. I won them both. And what do you know? I'm going to give it away on this show. So there you go. Happy Wednesday to everybody. No 5% plea for me today. I did have a 5% on the Super Bowl that I am still relishing on Kansas City. And other than that, it's been kind of a pedestrian week, I would say. I think I'm bang even, 17 and 17 the last 7 days. So let's start a new win streak tonight with this big total that we're going to talk about.
Like it, man. You have not lost a total all year, and you're going to give it for free here on the show. If that's not reason to stay tuned, there is no reason. And Adam, we're going to have some big games. Brian, we're going to have some big games. But I want to start with Drew Martin because this is an SEC game. In fact, the first 2 tonight are SECs. And Drew, this is maybe one of the best games of the season, in my opinion. Number 1 Alabama at number 10 Tennessee. Yet we have Tennessee as a solid 3-point favorite in this one. These teams have played twice the last couple seasons and not played this year. And I mentioned this in my top 25 video that Alabama's won by exactly 5 each of the past 2 meetings. It's been the exact same score both times. Do you think that happens again tonight, Drew?
Yeah, Steve, what a handicap here, guys. I mean, Rick Barnes versus Nate Owens, great game. I can't wait to watch it as a fan. I mean, you look at Tennessee, Steve, and it's the number 1 defensive efficiency team in the country, number 1 3-point defense, number 1 field goal percentage against defense. So, look, this team gets back on defense. They play really good basketball. They're well coached. However, looking at it, they're the number 2 offensive rebounding team in the country as well. But Josiah James is injured right now for Tennessee. I think he's a big loss. So we talk about change in college basketball, and it's a great way to win. I think he actually hurts their defense, their offensive rebounding as well. And they just let up 86 points in their last game against Missouri. Missouri, a good offense, however, not as good as Alabama here. So I actually think Nate Oates' squad, number 3 in average offensive possession length, number 2 in adjusted tempo, and we know that offense is really good. I think Alabama is actually the team to bet here. +3, sprinkle a little bit, +135 on the money line up against Tennessee. Look, good team overall, Steve. I don't really think they have the caliber that Alabama does, but a good team. They're just not playing really good basketball right now. They've lost they've lost 2 straight, 3 of their last 4, and they've lost 4 straight against the spread. That's not a profile I want to be betting on. I actually like Alabama here, guys. Wrong team favored, +3, sprinkle some on the money line. And keep in mind, this is coming from an Auburn graduate. So bet Bama tonight for me, Steve.
Yeah, and Adam, I mean, on the surface, if you were to look at this game and say you're getting the number 1 ranked team in the country as a dog against a team that just lost outright back-to-back games as a double-digit favorite, they lost outright, and they're 0-4 ATS their last 4, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. You'd say, who's missing from that underdog, right? Which players are injured? The one thing that jumps out to me, guys, on this game, the reason I kept it off my card personally is that I'm not looking to fade Alabama anytime soon. I think they're a really good team, second fastest pace in the country, yet they're still top 10 defensive efficiency, as Drew mentioned. But Tennessee plays slow, and they are the number one efficient defense in the country. They've had problems offensively, though, at times. So, Adam, what are you doing with this game tonight? Do you see some value with either Alabama or Tennessee, or maybe the total in this game?
I disagree with Drew here. I hate doing that, but I'm on Tennessee. It's a 4% play for me. Look, I don't think the James injury is as big of deal. I also don't think it moves the number because it was either known or it just doesn't matter to the number because when he was announced out, the number didn't move, right? So like when he was officially ruled out, the number is still 3. And if it mattered, they would have the books would have likely moved off of that. I wonder if the potential of Charles Bediako being out for Alabama is sort of keeping it in limbo. He's questionable. In my opinion, Steve, he'd be far more impactful to the number because he's Alabama's 7-footer. He's their rim protector. I think him being out would be a bigger defensive blow to Bama than James being out would be to Tennessee. But injury news aside here, I love the spot for Tennessee, right? Like they lose over the weekend. They've lost 3 of 4. They lost 3 of 4. They're now favored against number 1 Alabama. But, Auburn was on their way to beating Alabama and then just went ice cold at the end of the game. And not even in a sense that like they were being forced into tough shots. Auburn just missed everything in the final 6 minutes of that game. Really let Bama off the hook, in my opinion, because I really think Auburn was on their way to winning that game and just went cold. Like that's just what I watched happen. That's really the only way to explain how Auburn kind of controlled the first 30 to 35 minutes and then just lost. Here, I think this is a much tougher matchup for Alabama because they're not going to get their points in transition like they're accustomed to. Tennessee's not going to let them run, and their transition defense is excellent. So you're not going to see as many transition points. You're not going to see as many second chance points because Alabama, number 1 rebounding team in the country, Tennessee's right there with them. I mean, Alabama typically has an edge on teams with their ability to rebound. They're not going to have an edge against Tennessee. If anything, it's pretty equal. So Bama, they rank outside the top 300 nationally in turnovers. At some point, turning the ball over, you're going to pay for turnovers. I don't care what conference it is. It doesn't matter. You can't consistently win games. Someone's going to beat you if you keep turning the ball over. Auburn could not force Bama into turnovers the way Tennessee can. 13 plus turnovers a game. They're going on the road to Thompson Bowling Arena. And I'll leave you with one more thing, Steve. Tennessee finally shot the ball well last game. Even though they lost 86-85 to Missouri, they finally shot it well after they had not shot it well for almost 3-4 games. I do think there's some carryover here. And if Tennessee's shooting it well, that's something that hasn't happened against Alabama much recently. Alabama's been, teams have just not shot it well against them. I think there's a little bit of luck in that. I expect Tennessee to take another step forward offensively. They finally shot it well last game. I think they shoot it well again here. And all of that points me to Tennessee being the right side and them covering the 3.
Yeah, and Brian, this line opened briefly overnight, 2.5. It is a solid 3 across the board right now. But what's really jumped, we haven't talked about the total yet. So let me know if you have a thought on the total here. It opened 143.5. When I was doing that top 25 video overnight last night, it was 144.5. And I was actually saying I thought there was maybe some value with the under. Maybe we'd see a buyback, but we have not seen that. I mean, there's been a lot of money on the over. It's up to 147.5, 148 now. Obviously, Tennessee, in my opinion, does not want to play a run and gun style with Alabama. I thought they'd look to slow them down, number 1 defense in the country. But what jumps out to me, Brian, is the 3-point defenses of both of these teams are 2 of the best in the country. The perimeter D, Tennessee 24% allowed, Alabama 26% allowed, and that's on 25 games each. It's a pretty good sample size. And both teams take an above average amount of 3-pointers. So let me know if you have anything on the side, but also any thoughts on that total, which has really been climbing here. Adam, what did you do to Brian?
Did we lose him? You might need to refresh.
What did you say to him? I thought we got through Valentine's Day. I thought everything had gone well.
He looks
I'll
upset
ask
in that picture.
Here we go. Drew, real quick, I'll chime to you. I'll go back to Adam too if we don't get Bryan back. Any thought on the total, Drew? I mean, it's been a substantial move to the over here, almost 5 points with the number one defense in the country. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and to tell you the truth, I do think there's correlation, Steve, inside and total here. Like, if you're liking Tennessee tonight, that probably means, and you mentioned this, they are able to kind of slow Alabama down. I thought Trig actually brought up a good point on the other side in terms of if Tennessee is able to turn Alabama over, particularly Alabama being on the road, the Crimson Tide are going to be in trouble. And my bet of +3 and +135 is going to be in trouble as well. I just think Alabama is the better team, the more talented team. And when I'm handicapping totals, Steve, I usually side with the more talented team, particularly, a team like Alabama that, in my opinion, has Final Four aspirations here and could make it all the way, controls the pace of the game more than their opponent. We'll see what happens tonight, but I definitely think there's correlation. If you made me bet it, I would have bet it over. Some of that kind of quote unquote value's been taken out here as we start flirting with 150. And last thing on it, Steve, you go back in the Alabama games, they haven't played to this to this number of 147 and a half, now 148. They haven't played that to the under in quite some time. You'd have to go back to like what, January 20th, something like that, to where they played in a game where the total was under this number. That's what makes me think I don't really want to bet it under, Steve. It would be over or pass for me.
Yeah, and Adam, since you like Tennessee in this game, do you think it is somewhat correlated to the under? You did mention Tennessee is shooting the ball better, and they did put up 85 in that Missouri game, as you said. So maybe that gives you some hesitation.
No, I agree with Drew in the respect that I think if I was going to go with a total angle here, it would be over. And the reason being, both are probably due, some regression from how good their defense has been in defending the 3-point shot. Like Alabama, teams are shooting terrible against this team, but I watched that entire Auburn game and I watched Auburn miss a lot of open looks, right? Like so, I think that some of that's going to come back at some point. Um, and I already referenced, Tennessee. They finally shot it well against Missouri. So I think if Tennessee is going to shoot it well, which I think is going to happen, I don't know that they slow Alabama down. If anything, Alabama's probably more likely to dictate tempo, which would just because I don't necessarily disagree with Drew in the respect that Alabama's the better team. I don't argue with that. Alabama probably is the better of these two teams, but when you put them on the road here in this spot, coming off the Auburn win, and with they lose a lot of their edges in this game, Steve. No rebounding edge. They're not going to have the ability to score in transition like they do against some other teams. And then the fact that Tennessee can turn them over, I think it makes it a good spot for Tennessee and a good matchup. But it definitely, I would think, it's probably going to be faster than Tennessee would prefer it, and for that reason, I would lean toward the over.
And Brian Power, real quick before we head on to the next game, we looked at both side and total pretty deep in this one. But any closing thoughts on Alabama, Tennessee tonight from you?
Yeah, sorry about that. A rare power outage in the power household here. My electricity flash. But yeah, and you had teed me up so well, Steve, because I was going to talk about everything you had teed me up with. This game, it's real simple. It's going to come down to Tennessee 3-point defense and how well Alabama can shoot against it. I have talked about it on the show before. Alabama's 3-point field goal percentage defense, 24.2 for the year. Not only the best in college basketball, it would be the best in college basketball history. No team in college basketball history has ever held the opposition under 25% from three over the course of a full season. And that is after Mizzou goes 14 of 26 over the weekend, including that buzzer beater. It just so happens Alabama, they shoot 60% overall against Auburn, but they stunk from three in that game. Besides Griffin and Sears, the rest of the team was 1 of 13 from behind the arc. That will decide the game. Bama also missed 10 free throws in that Auburn game. This is a team that averages 83.4 points, number 6 in the country, the Tide. I'm going to say go over their team total of 72.5. That is a number they have exceeded in 21 of 25 games this season. And as you mentioned, Steve, the overall game total is on the rise. I say let's just stick to the Alabama side over 72.5.
One of the fastest teams in the country, second fastest tempo, and definitely one of the best offenses going over their team total. Definitely not a bad play from Brian Power there for the big game tonight at 7 Eastern on ESPN2. We have another big game, though, in the SEC as well. We're going to talk about here as we keep it in the Southeastern Conference. Let's look at this one between Arkansas and Texas A&M and talk about Drew. I'll throw it back to you. Teams that do not shoot the ball well from three. Arkansas in the season really struggling from the perimeter, 30% on the road, 30.5% overall. And now they're taking on an A&M team that's been average against the three, but pretty good against it at home. What are you doing with this one? Arkansas at Texas A&M, this game tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, Steve, this is a great. I'm really interested in this one, man. Look, I first go after this. It's a kind of a difficult handicap for me because Texas A&M is a team that I have circled. Like, if you're looking for an under the radar team where coming into March Madness, nobody's really talking about them, but a team that could make a run. I'm not saying they will like make it to the Final Four, something like that, but it wouldn't totally surprise me, Steve. This team's won 3 straight against the spread. And the main reason I like this team is because I don't know if you remember, Steve, going back to 2019, a guy named Jared Harper. He was the point guard for Auburn in that run that they made to the Final Four. And they lost on like a non-double dribble call against Virginia. You might remember it was the season before the pandemic. And what happened with that team right around this time, they were under 500 in SEC play, and they changed their offense to the best player being the point guard, which Texas A&M has in Wade Taylor, and he always beats his on-ball defender. Therefore, he can get to the basket or distribute it out for like an open shot. That's exactly what the Aggies are doing. They're taking like a little bit of the playbook from that Auburn team. I feel like that's just the team I remember off the top of my head that had success doing this. Texas A&M has done that. They're playing really good basketball right now. He scored 23 and 22 points in his last 2 games. Watch out for Texas A&M here. Now, coming to this particular matchup, Steve, I don't know if I like him against Arkansas because, look, I don't think Arkansas is that talented of a team. They don't score all that great, like you touched on in the intro. But what they are good at under Musselman is they're athletic, they're long, they're strong, they're good at defense, they get back on defense, and they're kind of tough to penetrate against. So that's why I don't think this matchup for Texas A&M is very good. However, having said that, watch out, guys. I think the Aggies at Texas A&M are going to be a money maker coming down the stretch here.
And Adam, it's a quick revenge spot for A&M. These teams played on the last day of January just 2 weeks ago, and Arkansas is a 3.5 point favorite, won by 11. They were up by 8 at the half in that game. They shot 50% from the field. A&M hit only 34%. Have to figure, I would think at least, there'll be a little bit of a regression now on the road for that Arkansas offense that has been kind of up and down, as Drew said.
Yeah, this is really tough to pick a winner in this game because there's a couple different ways. You can almost make a really good case for both sides here, Steve. One, in the respect that like Texas A&M loses the first matchup. They got up 20 more shots than Arkansas in that matchup. I think I read that correctly. They had 20 more field goal attempts than Arkansas and lost the game, right? So you can definitely look at it and say, okay, like all of like the regression numbers say that Texas A&M should probably be the side here, but I still I'm a little bit buying into the fact that Arkansas, now that Nick Smith is back, is going to start to get better. And I know that Eric Musselman is capable of taking a team and improving them down the stretch. And right, like so, it looked like Arkansas might have been on the way to doing just that. They beat Kentucky, then they come out and lose, but they lost to a pretty good Mississippi State team that's also been on fire lately. So I don't know that I am gonna dock them too much for that. But man, like, do I want to like fade Texas A&M in this spot where they have clear revenge and reasons to think that that this meeting could go different? Not really, but you're catching Arkansas on a couple points. Like there's it like both sides are tempting for different reasons. Me personally, Steve, I still am a little bit of a believer that Arkansas is going to sort of like get hot at some point. And I do think Nick Smith, he wasn't great last game, but if he's back in any sort of regularity, like I do think that he makes a big time difference for that team in terms of what they could. Because remember, Steve, this is not last year's Arkansas team. It's a very different team. They were very sort of reliant on Smith being the player they expected him to be coming into the season, and he's barely played. But we know he's able. And now that he's back, I don't want to go against Arkansas with him back because I've thought this whole time that he might be the key to get Arkansas to be that sort of top 10, top 15 team that they were billed as coming into the season. So that's kind of my thought on the game. I think if you absolutely forced me to pick a side now where the number is having been bet up a little bit, I lean toward Arkansas, but man, it's just a tough one to call. Slightly in Arkansas for me.
Yeah, once again, I think, the tempo is going to be a key in this game, guys, because you've got an Arkansas team that not only plays fast, but in my opinion, needs to play fast. Because once again, I go back to those shooting numbers. Not a good 3-point shooting team, not debatable, 30% of the season, but they're hitting 48% from the field, and they only shoot 70% from the free throw line, which is a slight bit below average as well. So this is a team that needs to score in transition. And Drew, you look at Texas A&M, they're below average tempo. They're like in the 280s, pretty slow half court. Here again, do you think side and total may be somewhat correlated in this one, Drew?
Yeah, I could see that. I guess I would go back, Steve, to Arkansas, what they're good at. Long, strong, good defensive team. They're tough to penetrate against, and that's exactly how you stop Texas A&M. Like Trig brought it up. The last time these two teams played, what Arkansas beat them, and so I could see that coming again. But I just don't think Arkansas is that talented offensively. Like their shooting metrics, like you're touching on. So they're not a team I want to be betting over right now. I mean, this is in the low 140s. It's not a game that I've touched totals wise here, Steve. But if you made me bet it, I would bet on the Arkansas kind of playing that strong defense and exactly what Texas A&M is trying to do, not be able to do that. Therefore, this game kind of falling short of what the 142 number.
And Trig, before we move on to the next game, I just want to you mentioned earlier digging into that box score from 2 weeks ago how Texas A&M had 20 more field goal attempts yet still lost the game. When you're looking at second meetings, what we call revenge games, basically, which is almost the majority of games here in February this time of year, what is something that you're digging into the box scores and really looking for stuff like that? A misleading box score, maybe.
Yeah, Steve, the thing I look for the most is something that sticks out that probably won't happen again, right? So, like, I'll look for, like, did a team have just a red hot 3-point shooting night? Did a team not make any threes? That's typically a pretty good shooting team. Did one team get crushed on the boards, right? Like, stuff that I think would either A, is going to happen again, or B, is likely not to. And how's that going to change? How's that going to change the game? I don't know that, man. Like Texas A&M, they missed a lot of shots in that first meeting. They didn't shoot a typically high number, so obviously chances for offensive rebounds, stuff like that. I don't know that like I think they're going to shoot, or I think they're just going to like to crush Arkansas on the boards by any means, or get that many more shots off. And if anything, just to go back to something Drew said, maybe Nick Smith, he is a shooter, he's supposed to be. Maybe he helps Arkansas's perimeter shooting a little bit. They've played most of the year without him. So just a couple thoughts there. One of the tougher games on the board, in my opinion, to get a real read on today.
Yeah, and one thing I always like to look at, guys, too, is free throw shooting because that's the one constant where a team maybe is a tick or two lower on the road with a hostile environment, but that's something that should pretty much be around your season average. So when
Steve,
you see a team that
a
shoots
lot of
70,
free throws missed by both teams in the first meeting. Like
exactly, and
tons of
that's
free
why I
throws
brought it up,
missed.
Adam, because
Yeah,
you look
yeah.
at A&M, you see that 58% shooting in the first meeting 2 weeks ago. That kind of catches my eye. 3-point shooting obviously is the great variance, just like turnovers in football. And Brian Power, before we move on, I'll ask you real quick on this one. Any thoughts? I know you're looking at the total on this one. Might even get to that a little bit later, but let me know your thoughts on A&M here in Arkansas.
Yeah, I'll make it short because I can hopefully go over to the best bet segment if I don't get blown away here by the wind outside. First, look, while the last 9 Alabama-Tennessee meetings have gone under, the last 8 in this SEC rivalry have gone over. Pretty interesting if you want to look at head-to-head histories. Obviously, the names change through the years, but A&M, it's very interesting to me. They're the only team that really has a chance to catch Bama in the SEC race. I don't think anyone would make the argument they're the second best team in the SEC. I have them 6th, as a matter of fact, behind Arkansas. But the game's in College Station, as you guys have gone over. It's a revenge spot. They shot, just 34.2% from the field. The missed free throws. Arkansas with Nick Smith back, they lose over the weekend, victimized by 60% shooting. I don't think that's going to happen again. And the Hogs, their 3-point shooting, it's poor, 30% for the year, 22% versus Mississippi State. I don't think they turned that around on the road. I like the under here. I don't think the Aggies are going to shoot the lights out like Mississippi State did again. So the under is my selection here.
And Brian, I'm going to stick with you while we've got you here and look at this third game. It's one of the top 25 matchups I talked about earlier. Xavier and Marquette. This is a good one tonight. This game is at 7 Eastern on CBS Sports. Number 16 Xavier at number 11 Marquette in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Brian, what are you doing with this one?
Yeah, I think all signs point to the over here, Steve. You're looking at the spread. Odds makers are saying Marquette's definitely the better of the two teams. I don't know if I agree with that. Of course, those Xavier's two top scorers banged up. Fremantle obviously out. Boom, he's probable. So I can understand the odds makers' line of thinking with the spread. Plus, Marquette has revenge in this game. We've been talking about revenge all throughout the show, and you look at Marquette's year, they only have one loss by more than 5 points. That's pretty, and it was UConn last week, only 4 regulation losses. So maybe they are the better team. But what I'm definitely sure of, guys, is both these teams can score. You're talking top 5 offensive efficiency, both sides. Marquette number 3, Xavier number 5. When they meet earlier this season, it looked like over bettors had an easy one. It was 48-44 at the half. But there was a 6-minute scoreless stretch in the second half for not just one team, both teams. There was no scoring for 6 minutes, and the game ends up going under. I don't think we're going to have a scoreless stretch like that again, Steve. Marquette, a moderate edge defensively over Xavier, but 18 of 20 Xavier's 25 games have gone over this year. Maybe there's a concern with some depth. They post their least efficient offensive performance of the year against Butler last time out. Xavier did. But they're still 4th in the country in field goal percentage, number 2 in 3-point percentage. And even without Fremantle, they've got 4 double-digit scores in the lineup. The over's 10-4 in Marquette home games this year. So, yeah, all signs point to the over here. I know it's a very high number, but they should have gone over a similarly high number in the first meeting, and I think they do it here.
Yeah, and Adam, I'm going to throw it to you next because once again, we have a box score to dig into from when these teams played exactly a month ago on January 15th. And I mentioned the over as Brian just did in my overnight video, my college top 25 video, which is on WagerTalk TV right now. So I recommend checking that out after the show. But the overnight line was 159.5. It did not move a tick on Tuesday night. I thought the over had some value. It's now up to 161.5. So we have seen some money come in. Brian mentioned that scoreless streak. What I mentioned in the video, and here again, digging into the box score, Adam, from that meeting last month, 28 and 25% shooting, a combined 11 for 42 for these two teams that are the 3rd and 5th most efficient offenses in the country this year, and 2 fast-paced teams as well. Seems like an overwhelming reason to take the over. I mean, are the odds makers just trying to price people away with a high total? Do you think it's high enough? And any thoughts on the side as well?
I mean, I don't have a take on the total, like a strong one that is, but I do expect the teams to shoot better, especially Marquette, who this offense is tremendous. Steve, I went and watched in person, arguably Marquette's worst game of the year. I was at the UConn game where they just got crushed start to finish, and I still think Marquette is an awesome team. Like it didn't even deter me that much. Like I just thought that was a bad matchup for them. Um, they're so good offensively, and now you put them at home, and I just feel like it's even more like pro Marquette offense going to be great type scenario here. The biggest takeaway from the first meeting, like if we're looking at first meeting to this meeting, Xavier crushed Marquette on the boards, but Xavier's not going to have Zach Fremantle here, who averages 8.1 rebounds per game. So that, in my opinion, is a really big deal for this matchup. And if that rebounding edge is a little bit equal or a little bit more equal, and you've got a Marquette team that should be much better offensively than they were from a conversion percentage in the first game. I think that points to Marquette being the right side here. Sule Boom's probably going to play, but his ankle's hurt, and I'm curious as to how much that affects him. That affects Xavier. If he's not 100%, it would worry me to back Xavier. Now you're down Fremantle, and you've got a banged up Sule Boom, who I think is another really key component to this Xavier team. Steve, I loved Xavier coming into the season. I thought they could be in this situation, so I'm thrilled to see them right in the mix in the Big East. But I got to tell you, it feels like they're going in the wrong direction now. It feels like the injuries are taking their toll, and I have to say, I think Marquette, who did not shoot the ball well in the first 6 from 24 from 3. I think Marquette plays a lot better here. they're probably going to win this one going away. This is a huge game, and I think Marquette shows up and they probably win this one going away.
Yeah, Drew Martin. I mean, it looks like Marquette and the over, in my opinion, is a way to play this. However, I left it off my card because I thought the price was pretty steep on both. I mean, we're talking about from 5.5 up to 6 now with Marquette, so they got to win by a pretty good margin. And also that over, as we said, has gone up to 161, even 161 and a half. So, Drew, what are your thoughts on side and total in this one?
Yeah, Steve. I mean, totals wise, I thought you hit it in terms of both teams being very efficient offensively. Um, Plus the fact, when you look at college basketball totals, we touched on this, I think, last week, Steve, with Joe. Um, Go back the last 30 days, we're talking almost 1,500 college basketball games, and we're hitting 54% overs. Guys, I've concentrated on the college basketball totals market for quite some time. That is a huge discrepancy. I mean, I know it's only what 2 percentage points off of like just being profitable. That's betting every single over in college basketball over the last month. That's still something to take notice of. I think it might be something with the way they're calling fouls. I haven't been able to put my finger on it exactly, but just learning the hard way this season in college basketball totals, I've lost some unders and I've changed my tune since then, winning some games. It's just something I wanted to point out here, guys. Not to not bet college basketball unders, but to look out because unders really aren't the trend right now. It's actually the other way to the overs. But specifically about this game, that's the way I would look towards the over. If you're looking to bet this one totals wise, but side wise here, Steve, I do think Marquette is worthy of this number. I mean, this is a Marquette team. Don't look now. They're number one in the Big East. Look at the standings. This is number one versus number two right now. And Marquette has quietly won 6 of their last 7, 11 of their last 13. Chuck Smart has this team 18-8 against the spread. This Marquette team's been a wagon right now. I'm not looking to step in front of them. And to Trig's point, Xavier's a little bit banged up. Their best player, Fremantle down there, down low, is out. And they haven't been playing their best basketball right now. So I think Marquette, they do shoot over 70% from the free throw line. Laying this number -5.5, you always want to watch out for that in case we get a foul fest down the end, Steve. But yeah, I like Marquette. And if you need something on the total, I would bet the over.
Yeah, it's such an excellent point about the free throw shooting, Drew, because there's no key numbers in basketball like football, 3 and 7, but there's always been rumblings that 7 is a semi key number in basketball because that's when teams turn on, turn off the fouling. And this one has gone from 5.5 to 6. So we're getting pretty close to that. And on the season, Marquette's 71% from the charity stripe, which is pretty much dead even with the national average. But great insight from Drew Martin about totals hitting to the over. I had not realized that, Drew, over the past month. Something to keep an eye on. And viewers and listeners, chime in on the live chat or more importantly, the comments below afterwards. Let us know your thoughts on why games have been going over more times than not in college basketball over the past month. All right, we analyzed 3 of the biggest games on the board, some good money-making opportunities there, but there's others as well. And Bryan, I'm going to start off with you. Bryan Power, give us a best bet for the show, something to look at tonight on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's great stuff from Drew about the over, but you know me, I'm a glutton for punishment. Let's take an under here with Arkansas and Texas A&M in that matchup. I think this number is just a shade high. If you look back at recent games, totals are typically in the 130s for both of these teams. Arkansas, Mississippi State, the total was 128.5. That was Arkansas's last game. I mentioned Mississippi State absolutely shoots the lights out against the Hogs. I just don't think A&M is capable of that kind of shooting. And again, Arkansas's three-point shooting, very poor. It's 30% for the year. It's 22% in that Mississippi State game. They're not going to get it right in College Station. So I am on the under in Arkansas and Texas A&M today. Today's only play, by the way.
That game at 9 o'clock Eastern Wednesday night on ESPN2. The Deuce. A&M and Arkansas under the total from Bryan Power, WagerTalk.com. And Adam Trigger, I'll go back to you here. Let's look for a free play here on the show and what you got going Wednesday at Wager Talk.
Yeah, so 2 client plays for me right now. One's a 5% play. It's up on my page. The other's a 4% play. I gave it out earlier on the show, and I'll just reiterate it again here for my best bet. That is Tennessee. Laying the 3 points here. I love the spot for the Vols, Steve. It's just a really good, in addition to being a good spot, with Tennessee coming off a tough loss, Alabama coming off a huge win, it's a great matchup for Tennessee. the areas that Alabama has edges, rebounding, Tennessee's just as good. So they're not going to have a real edge in rebounding. Being able to get out in transition, Tennessee's as good of a transition defensive team as you're going to find. So I don't see Alabama having a huge edge here either. And listen, Alabama's going on the road in a tough place to play. We've seen these teams losing like crazy the last couple weeks. The higher ranked team going on the road, and the home team keeps winning. And in this situation, you've got an Alabama team that turns it over close to 14 times a game, as much as almost any team in the country outside the top 300 in turnovers per game is Alabama. And you've got a Tennessee team that's got the ability to turn them over. So I think Tennessee's in for some positive shooting regression. They had shot it horribly for 3 straight games. Finally started to shoot the ball all well last game against Missouri. Now they get to stay at home. And, there was a stat referenced earlier in the show. Alabama's 3-point defense is historically great. I do think they're in for a little bit of negative regression there. I think some of these threes are going to start going in against Alabama. Auburn missed a bunch of open ones down the stretch in that game on Saturday. I don't think the same is going to happen for Tennessee. I'm banking on Tennessee having a little bit of offensive positive regression here, which is going to, in turn, give Alabama a little negative defensive regression. And I just like the spot, the matchup. Thompson Bowling Arena, going to be rocking tonight. I'll lay the 3 points. Tennessee gets it done.
Adam Trigger says, take Tennessee minus the 3. That's at 7 Eastern on ESPN2 as well. And Drew, 2 sides is what makes the market, right? Let us know your thoughts on that game. And also, more importantly, about a strong 5% best bet you got going tonight at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, got the 5% up for tonight, guys. Really like the spot. And hey, college basketball show on Wager Talk YouTube. We're breaking it down. We'll let you decide. I don't like going up against Trig. He's a great college basketball handicapper, but I'll give you the other side of it, guys. And the reasons I bet Alabama, I put pretty much half my bet +3, and then the other half +135, as I think the underdog wins outright. Look, Alabama, one of, if not the best team in the country here. Nate Oates running that up-tempo offense, really good all over the place. I think that, the more talented team, which I do think is Alabama, controls the pace here. I think that works in their favor. Also, looking towards Tennessee, what they really do, I actually think they're hurt right now with the Josiah James injury here. I think that hurts their offensive rebounding edge. I also think it hurts their defense. I mean, the last game when he was out, Missouri put up 86 points against them. So they're going up against a better offense tonight against Alabama. I think Alabama takes advantage of that. And Alabama on the road, look, it's not something I love here going on the road, but they are catching points, and they're coming off of a game going into Auburn, Alabama, and winning that game. That's a more difficult place to play than they're playing tonight. So I think all of that adds up to Alabama here. +3 as the underdog. My best bet for tonight, Steve.
It's Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com, and Drew's got a strong 5% best bet going tonight on Wednesday. I'm going to look at a free play here actually after the gold sheet, but let's get to the gold sheet first. And this is a late night game at 10 o'clock Eastern, and the gold sheet likes an under between Irvine and Santa Barbara. And this game, once again, at 10 Eastern Wednesday night. Gold sheet looking at a rematch here. Keep in mind, Santa Barbara shot almost 56% from the field in that first meeting earlier this season. Now it's a rematch at Irvine. And they're saying USC center Andre Kelly, who scored 22 in that first meeting, is out tonight. So they are likely to have less offense in this rematch. Irvine also playing at a slower tempo to reintroduce 7-footer Brent Luchin, who missed the 8 games. Both teams are also very low volume from 3-point range. So we should have a lot of scoring down low, not a lot of those extra bonus threes. It all adds up to an underplay for the gold sheet tonight at 10 Eastern between Irvine and Santa Barbara. That current total, as we look at the Wager Talk live odds screen, is sitting right around 136.5 after opening 137. So take under Irvine, Santa Barbara, under the total tonight from the gold sheet. All right, I'm going to look at one more game. We talked SEC basketball on ESPN2. Adam and Drew had the same game in Alabama, Tennessee. I'm going to use the same game as Brian Power. But I'm going to look at a free side selection. Just a quick reminder, I put up a free play every day at wagertalk.com on my page. We've won them both so far this week on Monday and Tuesday. Hit the free play for the Super Bowl. In fact, going back to the last day of January, now 11-1, 91% on the free plays I've posted at wagertalk.com on my personal page. Go there every day. It's usually a 1 to 2% lean, a game that was just a bit outside for making the cut, but obviously there's still value as it's gone 11-1. But the best bets have been where the money has been. number one in 2023 right now at WagerTalk.com. Number one in the NBA. I have a strong NBA best bet tonight. And number one in college and pro basketball sides combined. I've got a college basketball best bet as well. It's not one of the games I talked about in the college basketball top 25 video. So go check that out right now as I break down the three biggest games tonight here on Wager Talk TV. Now let's look at a free play in the ESPN2 game at 9 Eastern. I like Texas A&M minus 3.5, and that's my free play of the day, also at WagerTalk.com. I like using revenge when it works, and when it normally works is with quality teams who are good enough to get the revenge, and also with strong home courts. And A&M checks all the boxes tonight. This is a team that is 12-1 straight up at home this year. They're also playing with a very recent revenge from just exactly 2 weeks ago on January 31st when they lost by 11 at Arkansas. But keep in mind, they got outshot 50 to 34% from the field. I don't think that happens again. Arkansas is not a good shooting team. They have to score in transition. I think A&M is more likely to slow them down now at home. And A&M has a pretty good two-point interior defense this season. And they also were just 14 for 24, 58% from the free throw line in that meeting that lost 2 weeks ago. Good bounce back spot for Texas A&M at home, minus the 3.5. That's on ESPN2 at 9 Eastern. And don't forget, two strong best bets. Already 75% this week in basketball. And I've got two more going tonight, Wednesday. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. All right, that'll do it. Let's recap the best bets one more time on the way out here for the show today on Wednesday. Drew Martin likes Alabama +3, put half of it on the money line. Adam Trigger on the other side at -3. And once again, we had a full breakdown here earlier in the show. If you're just joining us, go back and hear the reasons for both sides and total in that game. Bryan Power and I are looking at the other game on ESPN2 at 9 Eastern. Bryan likes the under. It's only his third over-under selection this year, and he's won the first two. He likes under 141. I like A&M. Steve Merrill likes Texas A&M minus 3.5 with revenge. And the gold sheet play of the day is Irvine and Santa Barbara under 136.5 tonight on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. As always, I'll be back tomorrow on Thursday as well. And don't forget, best bets are available right now at WagerTalk.com for Wednesday night, both college and pro basketball, NHL hockey as well. And we can still get that great special the rest of February for just over $10 a day from any and all cappers. No promo code needed. The rest of February, the next 14 days, 2 weeks for just $149 at WagerTalk.com. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for instant alerts, thumbs up, like, and leave us comments below. Let us know your thoughts on the Wednesday night college basketball card. And be sure to join us again tomorrow on Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, right here on Wager Talk TV. Good luck tonight.
While the 2022-2023 football season officially ends today on Super Bowl Sunday, for many sports betting fans, college hoops in February and March is one of the most exciting times in sports. Whether you love college hoops or just want to pad your bankroll heading into March Madness, we have the perfect special. Starting today, get the rest of February with any Wager Talk or Sports Memo handicapper for only $149 each. So to finish off February for as little as $9 per day, head over to your favorite Wager Talk and or Sports Memo handicappers page and grab this limited time offer. This offer includes not only college basketball, but also any NBA, NHL, UFC, soccer, golf, and NASCAR that your favorite Wager Talk and or Sports Memo expert handicaps. No coupon is needed. The earlier you sign up, the more days you get.